WeWork is forging ahead with those IPO plans, but it is making changes to its governance in response to heavy criticism. The company now says it will curb CEO Adam Neumann's voting power. It also says no member of his family will be allowed to be on the board, and it removed a provision that was in its S-1 that raised a lot of eyebrows that allowed his wife, Rebecca Neumann, to pick Adam Neumann's successor if he ever steps down as CEO. And here to talk more about WeWork is Wedbush analyst Dan Ives. Dan, thanks for coming on. I want to share that there's breaking news just minutes ago, too, from Reuters, which is that the valuation of the IPO has been brought down again. WeWork now seeking to go public at a $10 billion value, so way down from the numbers we had initially heard.
Well, if you take a step back, it's really what's broader going on in the IPO market. And I think this all started with Uber and Lyft, because that was really what sort of changed the ball game. And I think what you're seeing with WeWork is like, look, investors from a valuation perspective continue to sort of put a sort of white flag in terms of what they're going to pay for some of these names. I think WeWork's really become the poster child.
Now, you could say it started with Uber and Lyft. I like that. That's sort of the macro case. But I also think some of these problems with WeWork are specific to WeWork. I mean, it excuses WeWork a little bit to say, well, the IPO market overall has just been not too friendly. I mean, what do you make of
But it's about the business model. For any model that for every dollar that in revenue is 50 cents loss. That's a tough thing for investors to digest. And I think it also just shows that these models coming out, investors need to see not just profitability, but models that have a moat, that have a reason that you're going to pay that for a valuation. As a portfolio manager, even as a consumer, you have X amount of dollars to spend. What are you going to spend it on?
Right. So Dan, I understand that they need to raise capital. They need the money, right? But is it a good idea to go ahead with this IPO? I mean, even SoftBank was like, okay, let's think about delaying this potentially because just the demand isn't there.
Yeah, which would be worse now? To go on ahead knowing it's probably not going to go very well, or though to cancel it, which looks a little bit like waving the white flag.
Yeah, and I think right now, this is potentially going to be a black eye, and I think you got to see which way it goes. And I think right now this is a game of poker for them in terms of which way they ultimately navigate. But obviously SoftBank's put their 2 cents in, but nonetheless, this is something. It's not just WeWork; it's others that are viewing this because it just speaks to what we're seeing in the IPO market. It's definitely a fork in the road. You see some of these names like Zoom, Beyond Meats, strong business models, you see the stocks going accordingly. Others, especially if you look at Uber and Lyft, those have really become the poster child for what we're seeing. Now, obviously, WeWork is a unique situation here.
Yeah. So in your mind, is their biggest issue their business model? Because the news that came out today was, oh, we'll just curb Adam Neumann's power, as if he was the biggest problem. But they have issues of profitability, their organizational structure, obviously Adam Neumann himself, there's some of their shady practices when it comes to their leases, conflicts of interest. What, to you, is the biggest red flag when it comes to WeWork?
I just view it as the business model. They got to prove to investors that ultimately there's a path here, not just for profitability, but growth. When you look at a lot of these other issues, I think the tolerance that you're seeing in this market is reduced in terms of what investors are willing to kind of look past. And that's what we've seen a lot of these other IPOs, is that now you're on the other side of the cycle. I think investors are starting to basically say right here, they're not going to just invest based on sort of a hope and a prayer.
Right, and it's one thing to not be profitable yet, but then that S1 just didn't really have any plan of how WeWork will be profitable.
I think any investor that read that S1, they definitely needed some alcohol after. And I think that was
were you able to understand it? The language itself, I think they started it like, we invest in the power of the we. And I was like, what does that mean? I had no idea.
I think that started this sort of firestorm that you're seeing here.
Right.